Good evening, fellow Cameroonians, and thank you very much for joining us on Viewpoint on DBS Television. Today, the 20th of May, is commemorated as the 48th edition of the National Unity of Cameroon. And of course, the long-anticipated, awaited speech of the head of state came to us yesterday, May the 19th, talking generally about the coronavirus pandemic and calling on the Cameroonians to be united in the fight, not forgetting our participation in the National Solidarity Fund in order to help the most vulnerable population. Speaking about this, we have our guest tonight is Mr. Weber Justin. He is a pedagogue. Good evening to you, Mr. Weber Justin, and a happy National Unity Day.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening, Venasius. Good evening to our televiewers. It is a pleasure meeting today on this famous day and historic one in our nation.
Mange Venasius, you're welcome.
Thank you, Vanessa, and good evening to our viewers this evening.
All right, let us come back in a moment for the first part of the show. It is the yes or no question and answer. The first part of the first question, we are asking whether has the unitary state been beneficial to Cameroon? I begin with you, Mr. Weber. Yes or no? No. Mange Venasius?
I share the same opinion.
No. Question number 2. Was Cameroon prepared for the unitary state before 1972? Mr. Weber?
No.
Mange Venasius?
No, it wasn't.
Question number 3. Can something be done to save the unity of Cameroon? I begin with you, Mange Venasius.
Yes, Vanessa, it's possible.
Yes, Mr. Weber.
Not possible.
So nothing can be done to save the unity of Cameroon?
For now, don't see.
And our last question for today is the multicultural nature of Cameroon an asset to national unity or integration? If yes, how? And if no, why? I begin with you, Mr. Weber. Yes or no?
It is, yes.
Yes. Mange Venasius?
Yes, it is, Vanessa.
Yes, it is. All right, let us come back for the debate. Mr. Weber, once more, you are welcome on Viewpoint on DBS Television. On the first question, we asked whether the unitary state has been beneficial to Cameroon, and you think that it has not been beneficial at all.
Exactly, Vanessa. Historically, when we go down memory lane, we discover that Cameroon, the name unitary, is found in papers and maybe in songs and all the like. But in real life, there is nothing that is unitary. When you take from 1961, during the plebiscite, which was preceded by the Fuman Conference or the Constitutional Conference, you find that from the Constitutional Conference, there was already a problem because the two parties went there with two different intentions. One party came in wholeheartedly to get into unity, while one party came in with deceit, with a hidden agenda, which is manifested today. As you are moving up, you find year after year, from 61, by 66, there was already an attack on the federal system that was put in place in 1961, which was aimed at keeping people together. Immediately at that time, parties were ordered to shut down so that we should remain with one party, and we worked with the one-party system. And while we were working on that, another one was cooked for 1972. And by 1972, there was a referendum, which generally is qualified by many as a coup d'etat. And when this happened, we got what we have today as National Day, which happened on the 20th of May. And so when you look at those cracks from the inception of the coming together, the fact that the two parties did not have one focus, they never had the same vision, it was already a call for concern. And so that question of unity from its inception has not been holding.
So has it been beneficial to Cameroon?
The question of being beneficial when one party is already feeling cheated, it cannot be, because by 1964 we saw the letter that the late Dr. Bernard Fonlon wrote, identifying that there are already cracks on the wall. And if he was beneficial, he would have not been writing such things because they were the architects. And he saw that just 2 years after, things were not holding. The center was no more holding. And so if it has been beneficial, it has been beneficial to France, who cooked all the mafia. The person who has been executing, take the case of Ahijo, for example, who has executed it, he executed till the 20th of May. I don't think he had a real benefit in it, except for the fact that what they are celebrating today is set to be the celebration of his success in abolishing the federal system and putting in place a unitary system. That could be beneficial to the person who was at the background, but not to Cameroonians. Because in the background and our daily life, we find that the unity is a lip service activity. In practical life, there is no unity. There's a lot of diversity, because those who are willing the real power are in the minority, and they are cracking down on the rest of the people. And the number of crises we're having in the country are very clear that the unity is shattered.
All right, Mr. Weber, we'll surely come back to that part. Mange Venashus, you are supporting Mr. Weber's point tonight that the unitary state has not been beneficial to Cameroon.
Actually, Vanessa, talking about being beneficial or not to Cameroon, from every indication, when you look at the economic life of Cameroon, the socio-political life of Cameroon, you discover that, an English adage says, united we stand, divided we fall. Instead, one would have expected that when Cameroon would become a united country, development in the country would, accelerate. We would see progress in Cameroon. But from every indication, the unitary, we are celebrating the 48th edition this year, which means for 48 years now, Cameroon has very little to drive home as benefits from the unitary state. Instead, Cameroon has been plunged into a kind of, disturbing peace. We enjoy relative peace because anything can happen at any time. Vanessa, when you maltreat my father, and I am aware of it, you will never be at peace whenever you see me. So the situation that Cameroon has been in since the unitary state, because of the way it was conceived, has plunged Cameroon into a relative peace in which we know that you are just eating with your neighbor with a long spoon because you don't trust him.
You don't trust him.
Yes, you cannot sleep and close your eyes because you don't trust him. Anything can come up. So when we talk of being beneficial to Cameroon, instead, when you look at states that were in a federation, like Cameroon was before 1972, you would realize that they are instead progressing. Because in a federated state, there are checks and balances. The federal government does not have all that power to wield on the state. But in the United States, everything is united. Everything is centralized. Yes. And that is why it is still dragging till today. Cameroon is talking about decentralization. If they are decentralizing, it is a fact that centralized system of administration has not worked. Existed. It has not been beneficial to Cameroon. That is why they are talking of trying to make sure that we decentralize things. And from 1972 up till now, I don't think that those who lived the two periods, the period before then and then now, they are always looking with some kind of nostalgia to that period because they know what they lived in, what they tell us, what they had at the moment, and now what we are having now. These are two different, phases in Cameroon history, Vanessa.
All right, let us take our second question. Was Cameroon prepared for the unitary state before 1972? Mr. Weber, you said no. In your first point, you came out with the word "we are diversified" in a negative term, and it just comes to tell us you wanted to talk about the Anglophone crisis. I said where to come in that, and it's just part of a way to show us that we were not prepared for the 1972 plebiscite.
Exactly,
the
Vanessa.
Referendum, better still. Exactly,
Vanessa. The ill-preparedness was not only during the referendum. As I said earlier, the ill-preparedness started from the Fumban Conference. That is the origin of all disunity in Cameroon. If the parties went to the Fumban Constitutional Conference with one vision, we would have been talking of useful unity in our country. But since they went, one, teleguided by France, whose interest till today is known, that France has rendered Cameroon to a mere farm from where they harvest, and they care less about those who take care of the farm. So you find that e-preparedness started from 1961, as I said earlier, and it moves up in 1972. We cannot say that Cameroon were prepared because it was a one-man show. It is written down in history that they are celebrating Ahijo's success. It is Ahijo. It's a one-man show. Ahijo's success in wiping out the federal system of government and putting in a unitary system of government. So, and in that case, we find that we are instead celebrating a person is not a victory for the country. And so we discovered that when they were going in for the referendum, it was France who programmed it, used Ahijo, and Ahijo organized the referendum. Questions that are asked about the referendum are very clear. If historically we accept that after the independence of La République of Cameroon on the 1st of January 1960, the Federal Republic of, or the Southern Cameroon is coming in 1961 on the 1st of October.
Mm-hmm.
That the two come in, and that the aim was to remain together as per Article 47 of the Fuman Conference Constitution, which is violated. That is where they said nobody should tamper with it, and that in 1972, Ahijo tampers with it without any qualms. He does it deliberately. It is just something that he cooked with the help of France, and which he realized with the help of some Cameroonians, some out of naivety, some out of fear of repression, they had to give in. And so we find that the Cameroonian could not be defined as having been prepared. We can say that Ahijo was prepared with France to realize what was originally cooked up. And so they were going systematically from one stage to the other. We find that 66, he brings the one-party system. By 72, he puts in place in May the referendum. By the 2nd of June, he divides Southern Cameroon into two provinces. In fact, the thing is systematic.
It's systematic.
And so he had an agenda that he was forced to realize. And so it is he alone who was prepared, but not Cameroonians. And so Cameroon cannot be defined as having been prepared for a unitary state, because when you take, for example, the Southern Cameroonians, they enjoyed a federal system which they lived inside for long, and they could not be envying a totally centralized system, and they could not be prepared for it. And so the preparedness for the so-called unitary state, to me, was a one-man show in Cameroon.
Mangevena Shoes, you are supporting the fact Cameroon was not prepared for this.
Actually, Cameroon was not prepared for this, and what we are living right up to 2020, from 2016 right up to 2020, is clear proof of the fact that the crisis we have in the northwest and the southwest region is a pointer to the fact that something illegally was done and had continued till date. That is why I will take you back again a bit to the before the Fuman Constitutional Conference. Cameroon, the French part of Cameroon and the English part of Cameroon accepted to, surrender their sovereignty and come together to form one state, what they call the Federal Republic of Cameroon. That was what happened in Fumban. But from what history has is, once they were going to Fumban, it was just to deceive some other people, believe that we are going in for a genuine union, whereas that union was just to cajole the other part into the union so that in due course we can absorb them. It was another strategy of absorption, and somebody was saying it was to dissolve the other part of Cameroon into the larger part of Cameroon. When after the 1961 conference in Fumban, what happened right up to 1972, and Ahijo decided to suppress the federated state into a unitary state. What what we have till today, Vanessa, Cameroon is the only country that has one nation, two national anthems. There are two versions of the national anthem in Cameroon, which means it was not prepared. If it were prepared, those issues would have been resolved. Cameroon is the only country in the world that has one nation, two judicial systems. We have the French, the civil law, and the common law. Cameroon is the only country in Africa that has two languages, English and French, as official languages. Which means if all these things were taken into consideration, and remember before the 1972 issue, we had two stars on the green strip of Cameroon flag. In 1972, they succeeded. Yes.
And the red.
Okay, they succeeded in suppressing the two stars and instituting one that portrayed one nation. What happened to the anthem? What happened to the judicial system? What happened to the educational system? What happened to the language? These are areas to show that, you know, the action was so fast that they did not, you know,
realize it.
They did not take into consideration this other aspect. And from then till 2016, every 1st of October has always been a month of problem, because Southern Cameroonians had always been revendicating. Every 1st of October, there are always crackdowns in the southern, in the English-speaking part of Cameroon, because there were still some elements who came up saying that, you know, you people deceived us, and that is why it was not well prepared. If it was prepared like what happened in Fumban, we would not have been where we are today. So these are every indication that the unitary state that was instituted in 1972 was not, a settled issue, an issue where they had to sit together and iron out issues and agree that, okay, let us become a unitary state rather than a federated state. I think if that was done, we would not have been where we are, Vanessa.
All right, given your point of view that Cameroon was not prepared for the unitary state, can something be done then to save the unity of Cameroon? And you said, yes, something can be done.
Vanessa, I think that something can be done. We've lived for more than 50 years, there are 60 years. Mm-hmm. There are still hopes that we can, I believe that there are hopes that we can,
what are some of those things?
Yes, that's what I think, that if you have to convince somebody, accept that you are wrong. Vanessa, if we go into a dispute and you are right and I am right, we will never come out with any solution. One person must come down to accept that there was something wrong here. Let us right the wrong. In as much as we keep insisting that nothing was wrong, history, you can suppress history, you cannot delete history. It is an act, something that happened. That's why they define history as the study of past event. It is something that happened, and once it happened, it remained in history. So there is no way they can suppress the fact that another part of Cameroon was an independent state, another part of Cameroon was an independent state, and we took two independent states that were supposed to be equal in status, came together and accepted to cohabitate as independent states, as equal states. But then what happened, and that is why we are living what we are living today. So I think it is high time that the authorities in Cameroon, that they come together. That is why they have been talking about frank dialogue. Frank dialogue here is, we face historical fact. Let us not assume what we just think to say that, no, we can. You can. What has happened, and what is history, there's no way you can alter it again. We can control, we can think of what to do with the future, not with the past. So there is no way they can cancel the fact that it existed. So let us be frank. This is what happened. It was an error here. And I think that humility, when humility comes in, it softens every hard heart. Every hard heart, once there is humility, it softens it. So if we are humble enough to accept that this is what happened in Cameroon, we want to chart a peaceful path ahead of us, the future for our children. We want to forget about what we have lived from 2016 up till now. I think that there are ways that we can consolidate You know, when they say consolidate, it means there is something wrong. And when the head of state was still talking, even again yesterday evening, he was talking of putting efforts to consolidate our unity. If we are consolidating our unity, it means there is something wrong, and we have to work together to consolidate it. Vanessa.
Thank you very much for your viewpoint, Mange Venasius. Mr. Weber, he just talked of one person needs to succumb in order to maintain the unity of Cameroon, or to save the unity of Cameroon. But you don't think that anything can be done to save our unity?
I think it is not one person. Everybody should succumb. What has put the unity at stake and makes it difficult for anybody to be thinking that we can resolve is the fact that there are three major elements. One, the presence of a number 12 player in the field for one of the teams, that is the regime in place, which is France. Two, the refusal to dialogue from one of the parties. Three, the abject refusal to listen to anybody else, including all international bodies. These three facts make it difficult for anybody to think of anybody remedying the actual situation. One will take the first one, the presence of France in the field of play as the 12th player in support of the government in place. France is the virus that is ruining unity in Cameroon. There are no two things. We need to understand that as Cameroonians, if we are calling ourselves Cameroonians, that France is out to divide and to conquer, and has taught the government that very method, to divide and then conquer. When they discover that people are racing this, and at this moment this can lead to this, the easiest thing is to cause division. And we have seen that division in several places. They have caused clash between the elites of the Southwest, the elites of the Northwest at times. They have created clashes in the Northwest between this tribe, and they fight. And you find that even when the various groups that have been come out as resistant groups for the Southern Cameroons, what they do is to infiltrate and divide in order to conquer. So that aspect is there, and it is France that is working out all these parameters and putting them in place. The presence of France will never make the two teams equal. And so it will be difficult for us to talk about unity, because France has its objective, which was from the beginning, was to assimilate the Englishman and completely wipe out their culture, language, and everything, which has failed over 60 years. The second one, the fact that one of the parties is refusing dialogue. When I say one party, I'm talking about the government. Why do I say they are refusing dialogue? When you read down the history of the period when the wind of change came to Cameroon in the 90s, you discover that immediately in 1984, when the head of state chose freely and alone with a decree to remove the word united and leave Republic of Cameroon, he went into serious abuse of what was already in place. Because even if those people were forced or were wrapped up in a mafia in 1972 and they validated the referendum, they were already living in it in peace. But when he came alone in 1984 and removed United, he sowed the seed of what we're harvesting today. And from 1984 to 1993, you found that by 1993, the Anglophones had already written to him. And he was obliged to allow for the AAC1 in Buea. And in Buea, when they came with the Buea Declaration, which today we don't know where it is found, since it was handed to the head of state, he has never spoken about it. That was a forum for dialogue. They have presented their views. What is your standpoint? Nothing has been done. When he was signed next year, in 1994, the pressure came up, and a second AAC was called in Bamenda. And before they arrived there, he had done infiltration to do the divide and conquer method. And when they arrived there, the people could not agree amongst themselves. And that gave birth to what we call the Southern Cameroon National Council, which in 1996 came into place. That is one of his first born child. Those people came in with one motto, which was very important: the force of argument and not the argument of force. That is, they had never had any intention to ever take arms. But nobody welcomed them. I'm talking about refusal to dialogue. up till today, where we are now in the worst situation, what happened way back in 2016 was just revendication and asking for people to sit and iron out things. And the government has always resisted. And you find out when they created a consortium, what happened in Bamenda. A dialogue where they come with something tight for you, you are honest to sign and validate. And when they refuse, they were attacked the next day as terrorists and they were imprisoned. So there is a total resistance against dialogue. And what you need to find out why there's difficulty to dialogue. Amongst the belligerent parties, one party lacks argument.
All right. Okay. Maybe we'll come back to that, Mr. Weber, since we're running out of time. Let us take our last question for today. We ask whether it's the multicultural nature of Cameroon an asset to national unity or integration. And you said yes. So yes. How is it?
The fact that we have over 250 tribes in Cameroon is a blessing. It is one of the riches of Cameroon. And when you find inside, you find that it has helped Cameroon to live even more in peace. Because you find that there is a lot of what we call intermarriage in Cameroon. People marry from where they find any woman who is convenient to them, any man who is satisfying to the lady, she marries. And that has helped people to fuse. And with that fusion, people in their minds, they don't have this idea of you are from this place. Until after the 90s, when multipartyism came back to Cameroon. And in order to break down some of the political parties, especially the opposition political parties, tribalism has to come in order to break them, and it is doing it. And we are seeing the consequences. Coupled with heavy corruption. If these cankerworms were not there, Cameroon will be living in peace as per the issue of the 250 tribes that we have. Children who are born of two parents from different tribes have a double advantage. They speak two languages plus the two official languages, which makes four. And it makes them more dynamic, and they find it easy to integrate in society. And so that was a plus to the unity that we're talking about. But unfortunately, those who wield real power have made sure that all should be watered down because of selfish interests.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Weber, for your viewpoints. Not forgetting that our dressing also is part of multiculturalism. Special for today. Yeah. Manga Venashus, your point on that?
Actually, Vanessa, we'll talk about multicultural nature of Cameroon. You know, Cameroon is fondly referred to as Africa in miniature. And I think this aspect of the diversity in the culture that exists in Cameroon is what should instead give us that pride to talk of Cameroon, to belong to that country called Cameroon, because you can depict every part of Africa in Cameroon. That gives us that pride to say I am a Cameroonian. When I go there I find myself. And this multiculturalism in Cameroon has been in such a way that Cameroonians freely move among themselves. Yes, we settle practically everywhere in Cameroon, and that makes, even if I'm settled here in Douala, I feel I am in Cameroon.
You feel at home.
I feel at home where I am, because there is that segregation is not supposed to exist. It is not supposed to exist. But then what we have in Cameroon is, like Mr. Uba was saying, politicians have taken that multicultural aspect of our country to use it as an arm when they want to sell their political propaganda across. When they want to make, there are some parties in Cameroon that are a bit tribal.
Anyway, that's what we're witnessing right away.
Oh, okay. So these are aspects from ill-intentioned Cameroonians when they want to break the integration of the country. If we can make use of this multicultural aspect, just that aspect of selling our culture, our Cameroon will become a safe haven for tourists to come to Cameroon anyhow, and it makes us feel part of this beautiful country. But then we have allowed it. People have brought in their selfish motives into it, and instead used it to disintegrate us instead of integrating us. If we used the multicultural aspect of Cameroon the right way, then Cameroon will be a country well integrated. But then we have allowed it, and that is where we are today.
In few seconds, a take-home message concerning this day, the commemoration of the National Unity Day.
Vanessa, a take-home message is, you will never have another place again that you will call home. If we call Cameroon our home, then each and every Cameroonian has a duty to. I don't think that Cameroon does not belong to Paul Biya. Cameroon does not belong to Famdongo. Cameroon does not belong to Tanganji or to any other minister in Cameroon. Cameroon belongs to Paul Biya as it belongs to me. We share 50-50 of Cameroon. Paul Biya is the president, as I can also be the president of Cameroon tomorrow. So if any Cameroonian feels that he is a Cameroonian, take Cameroon as your country, and we need to guard that country jealously. If we do that, we will live in Cameroon in peace. But if we look at Cameroon as Paul Biya's Cameroon, we look at it as CPDM's Cameroon, SDF's Cameroon, MRC's Cameroon, that is where problem comes in. But then I have it. I know that this is my country, and I do everything to protect this country. If each and every Cameroonian does that, we would have a perfect country to live in.
All right, and to you, Mr. Weber, take home message.
But what is very essential for me is the fact that we need peace in this triangle. And for peace to reign, there must be sincere dialogue. As far as the powers that be cannot accept to sit and dialogue, they are putting pressure for ceasefire. No ceasefire is being called. And once these things are not done, we cannot talk of peace. We will only be hypocrites, pretending that we want peace when there is no peace. For peace to reign, justice must be there. And for justice to be there, we need to sit face to face and talk frankly. And talk nothing but the truth. And when that will be done, the truth will set us free.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. It has been a pleasure having you and sharing a lot of views concerning the unitary state of Cameroon. Ladies and gentlemen, hope that you are informed and educated back at home. Stay tuned to DBS Television as programs continue. Until we meet again, do take care and have a beautiful commemoration of the 48th edition of the National Day in Cameroon. Bye-bye.